What's up, guys? I'm gonna do a walk around on my 93 Chevy C10 with a turbo 5.3. It's actually an L33. Get you switched around here. So, like I said, this is a 1993 two-wheel drive short bed Chevy pickup. It originally had, when we got the truck, it had no transmission in it and had a 4.3 liter. We did the swap on it, put a turbo 400 transmission out of like one of the Chevy SS trucks in it, so the speedo works like it's supposed to. You can read it with HP tuners, no problem. So all my speed controls, everything works there. Pretty basic. I mean, just simple lowering job. The interior could use some work. It needs some door panels. Seat's not in the greatest shape. No headliner. And got a fuel cell and the battery box here in the bed of the truck. Full weight, this thing is all steel right now. Weight's probably the biggest limiting factor at the moment. If I make too much more power, it's going to get super expensive. But the thing weighs about 4,000 pounds, a little under 4,000 pounds with a full tank. We repainted it probably 6 or 7 years ago, but I did have some mishaps along the way, a few scrapes and scratches here and there, but the biggest thing was I had this axle break. I don't know if it'll pick it up very well on camera, but it actually came out and slammed into the side of the bed. That was before I had the traction bars. And there's actually still gunshot wound there from the axle when it came out. It looked basically like a sharpened pencil went straight through the side. That was a pretty fun experience. Luckily, I was pretty close to my job, my old job at the time, at a Chevy dealership, so we just jacked it up, put the axle back in, drove it up to the shop, and fixed it the next day. It's an L33 5.3. It's got a Brian Tooley Racing Stage 2 turbo cam. Beyond that, it's pretty much stock. I did do the BTR 660 springs. But other than that, on the inside, it's basically untouched. I did take it all apart, clean everything up. I got this motor from the same job I had at that Chevy dealership. Unbeknownst to me at the time, you know, I was just trying to get a 5.3 and get in the game, but I paid 185 bucks for it. It was a core, had bad lifters, a gazillion miles, typical junkyard LS type of stuff. So instead of sending it back to LKQ or wherever we got the motor from, I just paid them for the core. It wasn't long after that and they started charging a couple thousand for the core, which is just ridiculous. But it's got an on-3 78-75 millimeter cast turbo, Holley high ram intake, dual blow-off valves because they look cool. Don't really need them that bad. The turbo kit I did build all myself. If you guys watched my previous video, you would have seen the driver's side manifold, or excuse me, the passenger side manifold. It's a log style like the Failer Speed Performance. Wastegate mounted on the housing, welded directly to it. It seems to work pretty good. I haven't really had any issues with it so far. I've been driving it a bunch to work. I live around Kansas City and it is freaking hotter than heck right now, so driving it to work with no AC is not that fun. Probably my biggest regret is not keeping the AC and making it work somehow on this. Prior to putting this 5.3 in there, we actually put a small block Chevy carbureted motor back before I was enlightened to the ways of the LS. But it does have heat, so it is fun to drive like in the spring and fall when you get that nice boost weather, real cold air intake temps. On my crossover, there's no flex joint. I built one in the past on this truck with a flex joint. Didn't have any issues with it, but it didn't make a huge difference to me. I didn't feel like I needed one. It seemed like a lot of guys were going away from them. I mean, it's kind of up to you. It's all 2 1/4 inch hot side up to the log manifold, which is 3 inch schedule 40 pipe, I think, stainless pipe. So the the manifold I made is all stainless. Then the turbo is got a 3-inch outlet, but if you can see there, I did a 3 to 4 inch transition and then ran 4-inch all the way out the back, which was a huge pain in the ass. I don't recommend it. And then also I need to add on to my wastegate dump pipe there. It's a little bit short, but no issues with that. Just want to run it down a little bit lower. Under there is a MagnaFlow 14135, I think is the part number, but it's a 4-inch race muffler. That's how they advertise it. But all the way out the back. And then for the actual exhaust piping, I just bought a Duramax, or maybe it was a Cummins, MagnaFlow straight pipe kit, basically for the bends over the axle. I did have to trim it a little bit to tuck it up close to the bed floor. As you can see, I mean, it doesn't hang out that low. And before I had it all the way coming out the back, it would just dump about, right in there, just behind the cab, and it was so freaking annoying. It was miserable to drive, rattle your freaking brain out. Much better with the 4-inch all the way out. Sounds good. Couple typical OBS things. I did the new body style master cylinder. Super easy swap. Did add a proportioning valve because I put disc brakes on the rear. The disc brakes on the rear is super simple. There's guys out there making kits for them now that are kind of expensive. I found some, I think they were $10 or $12 brackets on Speedway. They're typically weld-in brackets, but where the old backing plate bolted on for the drum brakes, I drilled holes in the bracket, bolted it to the same bolt location, and then used S10 rear calipers on that. I do have the Caltrax track bars made for the flip kit on the axle, which is, in my opinion, if you're going to make much power, is a must-have. Before I had that, even just on street tires, it would wheel hop like crazy, which is why we broke an axle. This truck also has drilled and slotted rotors, you know, if you're into stupid stuff like that, but they're actually Impala SS rotors, and the only difference is you have to drill the bolt hole out just a little bit more where the actual lugs come through. For my fuel system, I'm running a Holley 12-1800. It's the dual, I guess it's like a dual Walbro 340 inside the little housing. The second pump comes on with a Hobbs switch located just right there in the back. That little black deal right there is just a vacuum manifold. Runs my map sensor, runs the big hose over to the brake booster. The boost gauge I have, basically anything that runs off manifold pressure, I run off of that. There's a, let's see if I can find it, it's buried in here somewhere. I'm running an AEM True Boost controller, so that's what this little max solenoid is. But in here, I don't know if you can see that, but right in there, that little guy is a little check valve. And that vacuum line runs down to the Turbo 400, so that just under regular cruising around town, you're not getting those neck snapping shifts. But whenever the vacuum drops off, you're not pushing boost into it, which, you know, could possibly blow out your accumulator or whatever the heck it's called. But with doing that, it shifts great, drives around town great, very streetable. Everything works, all the lights, everything. I don't have a radio, which is not a bad thing. I do like just cruising around listening to it. It is fun. Makes all kinds of fun noises. Wastegate's a 44mm VS Racing. We got these lovely mismatch blow-off valves. Thought I bought them from the same supplier at different times. I had one for my old setup and just bought a new flange. It's all 4-inch after the intercooler and then 3-inch up to the intercooler. No reason really. I just thought the 4-inch was cool. Looks better. I think just a little more appealing. I mean, I'm all about going fast, but I want to look a little bit cool too. But other than that, just basically a stock truck. As far as the lowering kit, the front springs are cut. I think we took 1.5 coils off to get the drop. Running these are like the Chevy SS wheels basically, but 225 75 15s in the front. And from the bottom of the wheel well, or the wheel arch there, to the ground, I think it was about 27 3/4 or 28 inches on each side. And in the back it's just a straight flip kit, nothing to it. Basically just set the axle on top of the leaf springs instead of down below. We did C-notch it. Had a little bit of, it would hit if you hit a really bad bump before I C-notched it. But with those cow tracks, I did have to take out the overload spring because it would hit that little bar just that you can see right there, just right there in front of the tire, right there. But other than that, I mean, stock 10-bolt rear end. It's got the like a Eaton style posi, you know, the one with the clutches, not like a True Track or anything like that. It's not the Gov Bomb, you know, the G80 that a lot of these trucks came with. Up front, it's all stock suspension, other than cutting those springs down. Taylor spark plug wires. You can see before I had my dump on my wastegate, I was melting my little coolant reservoir there. So as far as my fans go and my radiator, this is a stock F-body radiator and fan. It's out of like a LS1 car, so with an automatic, because it's got the cooler in it. 98 to 02 basically. I didn't have to modify the core support to make it fit the truck. I did notch it out just a little bit right here. I made this little cover to hold it tight. I mean, you can see it's not super tight in there, but it doesn't go anywhere. The biggest thing for that was getting a little extra clearance for that stupid 4-inch intake pipe I just had to have. Stock power steering lines work just fine. All my gauges work. I'll show those to you too. It's on a stock computer, HP tuners. Even the fuel gauge and the fuel cell works, so. As far as my gauges, you can kind of see my True Boost gauge there. It's got a couple settings, different settings, plus scramble button, and then my wideband sensor there. Right now it is running E85, just straight out of the pump. It is set up for flex fuel though. One weird thing I've noticed lately is it's been taking a little while to switch. If I put E85 in it after I've had gas in it, it seems like it's taking longer than it used to switch. Exhaust is all stainless front to back. Basically everything except for driver's side exhaust manifold. Fastest pass I've ever had in this truck was a 1058 at like 131 miles an hour. Fastest time in like 8 miles a day was like a 680 with a 166 60 foot. So, which is not bad for a big old heavy ass truck, but a lot of room for improvement there. It is still column shifted too. You can see that, but when I race, I'm like the most novice racer ever. I do a small little burnout, pull the line, put it in drive, and just stomp the pedal. And usually it works out. I mean, not a whole lot to it. I'm not dicking with, you know, bump boxes and two steps and all that sort of stuff. It does spin